Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine your mind as a still pond. The surface is glassy, undisturbed, perfect. Now imagine someone throwing stones into that water. Each stone represents an insult, a rejection, bad news, a traffic jam, a critical comment, a failed expectation. The water ripples, it churns, it becomes chaotic. Now imagine something different. The pond is still there, but this time, you're standing beside it, watching the stones fall. You could jump in and try to stop them, curse the people throwing them, exhaust yourself in futile resistance, or you could simply observe. You could notice that the water, no matter how it ripples, will eventually settle again. The pond's essential nature remains unchanged beneath the disturbance. This is not poetry. This is the practical technology of Stoicism, one of the most misunderstood and underutilized philosophies ever developed by human minds. We think Stoicism means being cold, emotionless, and detached. We imagine a Stoic as someone who accepts suffering without protest, who feels nothing, who is somehow less human because they refuse to be swept away by every wave of emotion. We are wrong. True Stoicism is radical in a different way entirely. It's about understanding with crystal clarity what is actually within your control and what is not. It's about building a fortress around the one thing that truly matters: your inner peace, your equanimity, your capacity to respond to life with wisdom rather than reaction. This is not resignation, this is revolution. The Stoic philosophers, from Zeno to Marcus Aurelius, from Epictetus to Seneca, all returned again and again to one foundational idea. There exists a sharp and absolute division between what is within your control and what is not. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man in Rome, wrote in his personal journal, the Meditations, that he could not ultimately control whether he lived another day. He could not control how others perceived him. He could not control the opinions people held about him, the judgments they made, the rumors they spread. He could control only his own judgments, his own intentions, his own efforts, and his own values. This is the point where most people's minds rebel. But surely, we think, what others think about us matters. Surely we need to control our circumstances. Surely we should be anxious about outcomes we cannot predict. Yes, outcomes matter. Success feels better than failure. Good health is preferable to sickness. Wealth is more convenient than poverty. The Stoics never denied this. What they insisted upon is something far more important. Your emotional state does not have to depend on these things. Here is the revolutionary insight. Your peace is not a luxury item that you deserve only when everything goes right. Your peace is a skill, a capacity, something you can cultivate and protect regardless of external circumstances. And the moment you stop trying to control what you cannot control, the moment you withdraw your emotional investment from outcomes that are not in your hands, something extraordinary happens. You become free. Freedom doesn't arrive when everything finally goes your way. It arrives when you stop requiring everything to go your way in order to be at peace. Think of the student who stakes her entire self-worth on getting into one specific university. She can study, she can prepare, she can take the test, but she cannot control whether the admissions committee accepts her. Every moment she spends anxious about that outcome is a moment she's given away her peace. Every tear shed over a decision outside her control is power surrendered to forces that never asked for it. Now imagine instead a student who studies diligently, prepares thoroughly, takes the test with full attention and best effort, and then releases the outcome entirely. She has done what was in her control. The rest is not her business. She sleeps well the night after the exam. She is not anxious. She is at peace. She has protected her peace by placing her focus exactly where her power lies. This principle extends to everything. Can you control whether someone insults you? No. Can you control whether you ruminate on that insult for 6 hours and feel wounded? Yes. Can you control whether your business fails? You have influence but not ultimate control. Can you control whether you spiral into shame and despair if it does? Yes. Can you control whether your relationship ends? Not entirely. Can you control how you move forward, what you learn, and whether you become bitter or wiser? Absolutely. This is the protective wall around your peace. It is built not from avoidance of difficulty, but from clear-eyed recognition of reality. In reality, many things happen that we don't want. In reality, we don't control these things. In reality, being upset about this fact simply adds suffering to circumstances we cannot change. So we choose differently. We choose to direct our energy, our emotions, our values toward the things that remain within our power. The 3 disciplines, your arsenal for peace. The Stoics organized their practice into 3 interconnected disciplines, each serving as a guardian of your peace. Understanding and implementing. These 3 disciplines is like having a complete defense system against the forces that would steal your tranquility. The discipline of perception. How you perceive an event largely determines your emotional response to it. This is not about positive thinking or self-deception. This is about accurate perception. Consider a common scenario. You send an important email and receive no immediate response. Your perception could be, they ignored me. I must have offended them. This is terrible. I've probably ruined the relationship. Each perception leads to anxiety, hurt, rumination. Or your perception could be, they may not have read it yet. They may be busy. They may need time to formulate a response. There could be 100 reasons I'm not hearing back. I don't actually know what's happening here. The second perception is not optimistic delusion. It's accurate perception. It acknowledges the actual limitation of your knowledge. And instantly, your emotional temperature drops. You've protected your peace by perceiving accurately rather than catastrophizing. Epictetus taught that people are not disturbed by things, but by the views they take of them. This is so important that it bears repeating in different ways. The event itself is neutral. Your interpretation of that event creates your emotional experience. A storm is neutral. A parent might see a storm and feel grateful for rain that will water the crops. A traveler might see the same storm and feel frustrated that it delays his journey. A child might see it and feel wonder. The storm did nothing. It was their perception that created their experience. Your pain at being rejected for a promotion is not caused by the rejection. It's caused by your interpretation of the rejection. I'm not good enough. I failed. My career is over. People don't respect me. These are thoughts, not facts. And you have the power to examine them, question them, and choose more accurate interpretations. Protecting your peace through the discipline of perception means examining your interpretations. When you feel disturbed, pause. Ask, what story am I telling myself right now? Is this story factually accurate, or am I adding interpretation? You may discover that you're treating guesses as facts, possibilities as certainties. Distinguishing between events and judgments about events. Your boss seemed cold in a meeting. That's an observation and perhaps even accurate. But your judgment, she dislikes me or I've done something wrong, that's interpretation. It might be true, it might not. You don't actually know. Choosing to perceive in ways that are both accurate and constructive, you didn't get the job. That's true. Everyone is now judging you as inadequate. That's almost certainly false. People largely don't think about you very much. They're busy with their own lives. This isn't a comforting lie, it's a liberating truth, and it protects your peace by directing your mind away from invented torment. Marcus Aurelius regularly reminded himself that events are indifferent to his judgments. The world doesn't care whether he's upset. Nature doesn't care whether he's anxious. And understanding this, that his emotional disturbance is self-created through his judgments, gave him power over it. Now let's talk about the discipline of desire. Your desires can be a source of endless turbulence. You desire things you can't have. You desire things you have and fear losing them. You desire that people treat you a certain way, and then you're devastated when they don't. You desire to be admired, to be successful, to be comfortable, and every moment these desires are frustrated, you suffer. The discipline of desire is not about having no desires. It's about examining your desires, understanding which ones depend on things outside your control, and consciously reshaping your desire system toward things that are truly within your power. This sounds abstract. Let's make it concrete. You might desire to win an athletic competition, but you cannot control other athletes' performances. You cannot control the weather, the judges, unexpected injuries, equipment failures. You can control your training, your focus, your effort during the competition. So the Stoic reshapes the desire. Instead of desiring victory, desire to perform at your best. Instead of desiring that the judges score you highly, desire to execute your preparation and let the outcome be what it is. This seems like settling for less. But notice what actually happens. Your peace becomes unshakable. If you performed at your best, you're satisfied, even if you didn't win. The pressure is gone because you've placed your desire exactly where your power lies. Seneca, one of the wealthiest men of his era, regularly practiced poverty. He would eat simple food, wear rough clothing, and sleep on a hard bed. He did this not for punishment, but to accomplish something crucial. He was severing his sense of peace and happiness from the conditions of wealth. He was teaching himself that his peace didn't require luxury. If he lost everything tomorrow, he would be fine because his inner resources were already proven to be sufficient. This protected his peace by removing the anxiety he might otherwise feel about his possessions. You can practice this yourself in smaller ways. Sleep one night without your comfort pillows. Spend a week not buying anything you want. Eat plain food for a day. The point is not asceticism for its own sake. The point is liberation. You're teaching yourself that your peace doesn't depend on indulgence. You're creating space between yourself and your desires, so you can see which ones are genuine needs and which are simply habitual cravings. But beyond practicing poverty, the discipline of desire operates through constant examination. When you feel anxious or upset, trace it back. What desire is being frustrated? Is this desire within my control to fulfill? If not, can I redirect my desire towards something within my control? If the desire is within my control, what actions can I take? And can I then release my attachment to the outcome? You desire to be liked by a particular person. You cannot control their feelings, but you can control how you treat them, whether you're honest and kind, whether you show respect. Redirect the desire there, then accept that they may still not like you, and that this is fine. Your worth doesn't depend on their opinion. You desire financial security. You cannot predict the future, but you can save money, build skills, diversify your knowledge, create backup plans. Redirect the desire toward these controllable actions. Then accept that life contains uncertainty and build your peace on the knowledge that you've done what you can. The discipline of desire, then, is about becoming less greedy for outcomes and more focused on actions. Less desperate for conditions to be a certain way and more invested in responding well to conditions as they actually are. Now let's move over to the discipline of action. You are here. You are alive. You are capable of action. What are you going to do? This is the discipline that stops Stoicism from becoming passive resignation. The first two disciplines, perception and desire, teach you what to accept and what to release. The discipline of action teaches you what to do. You have roles. You are someone's friend, perhaps a parent, a sibling, an employee, a citizen. Each role comes with duties and responsibilities. The discipline of action is about fulfilling these roles with excellence and integrity, regardless of reward or recognition. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself that he was a human being, a part of the larger whole, with responsibilities to others. This gave his life direction and meaning. He wasn't just protecting his peace in isolation. He was protecting it while contributing something of value to the world. Protecting your peace through action means acting with intention and focus. When you're working, work fully. When you're with someone, be fully present. This seems simple, but most of us are perpetually scattered. We're partially engaged in tasks while our minds spin with worries about outcomes. When you fully focus on the action in front of you, you're naturally removed from anxious rumination. Paradoxically, by releasing obsession with outcomes, you actually perform better. Taking responsibility for your effort. You can't control whether your effort succeeds in producing the result you want, but you can control the quality and honesty of your effort. The Stoic commits to doing things properly, well, thoroughly, not for external approval, but because doing things well is intrinsically valuable. This gives you a source of satisfaction and pride that doesn't depend on outcomes. Understanding your role and fulfilling it. You are not responsible for outcomes beyond your role. If you're an employee, you're not responsible for whether the company succeeds overall, though you contribute to it. You're responsible for doing your job with excellence. If you're a parent, you're not responsible for how your adult children turn out. They make their own choices. You're responsible for raising them with care and wisdom while they're in your care. Once you're clear on what your actual responsibility is, not more, not less, you can protect your peace by fulfilling it without bearing burdens that aren't yours to carry. Persisting in right action regardless of difficulty. The discipline of action is tested when doing the right thing is hard, unpopular, costly, or unsuccessful. This is where the Stoic character is forged. You protect your peace not by abandoning your values when they become inconvenient, but by understanding that maintaining your values is more important than any external consequence. The person who compromises their integrity to avoid difficulty has lost far more than any external loss. They've fractured their own character. The architecture of unshakable peace. Now we've laid the foundation. The dichotomy of control teaches us where to focus. The three disciplines teach us how. But we need to understand something crucial. Peace is not the absence of challenge. Peace is not a state where nothing bad happens. Peace is a state of inner stability. It's the ability to face difficulty, loss, uncertainty, and even pain while remaining fundamentally centered. It's knowing who you are, what matters to you, and what is genuinely within your power, and building your emotional and spiritual life around these truths. The Stoics understood that challenges don't diminish peace, they test it and strengthen it. It's like a muscle. A peaceful state that has never been tested by difficulty is fragile, but a peace that has been maintained through genuine hardship is unshakable. Consider Epictetus, who was born a slave and remained enslaved for decades. One day his master twisted his leg. "Break it," Epictetus said. His master continued twisting. "If you twist it, it will break," Epictetus warned. The master twisted until the leg broke. "Didn't I tell you it would break?" Epictetus said, completely calm. He had not given his master his peace. His master had only broken his leg, which was indeed unfortunate, but did not touch the inner fortress. This is not superhuman. This is what becomes possible when you genuinely understand that your peace is your own responsibility, and you've built it on things your master, or your boss, or your critic, or your rival cannot access. Most people try to build peace through external circumstances. They think, once I get the promotion, I'll be at peace. Once I get into that relationship, I'll be happy. Once I have enough money, I'll stop worrying. And they're trapped forever chasing circumstances that shift and change. Even when they get what they want, there's always something new to worry about. Someone new whose approval they need. Another rung on the ladder to climb. The Stoic builds peace from the inside out. Here's the architecture. A clear understanding of your values, what actually matters to you. Not what society says should matter, not what your family expects, not what would be impressive to others, what genuinely matters. Honesty, kindness, courage, excellence, growth. Usually it's a handful of core values. The Stoic clarifies these first. Everything else is secondary, a commitment to living according to those values. You commit to being honest even when it's costly, kind even when others are unkind, courageous even when you're afraid, excellent in your work even when no one is watching. This commitment becomes the solid ground beneath you. You always know you can look yourself in the mirror. Acceptance of what you cannot control. You've done your work. You've lived according to your values. You've acted well. And then the outcome is what it is. You get rejected, you fail, you lose, you're criticized. And none of these things can touch the fundamental peace you've built, because your peace never rested on outcomes. It rests on knowing you've done what was in your power with integrity. A regular practice of remembrance. This is why Marcus Aurelius kept a journal. This is why Seneca wrote letters. This is why the Stoics were not one-time converts to philosophy, but constant practitioners. You don't learn these principles once and then forget them. You return to them daily. You remind yourself, what is in my control? What is not? What did I do well today? Where did I get distracted by things outside my control? What will I focus on tomorrow? Now let's talk about the protective practices, keeping your peace intact. Understanding the philosophy is one thing. Maintaining the practice under pressure is another. Here are the specific practices that protect your peace when the world tries to steal it. Negative visualization. Seneca and Marcus Aurelius both practiced what we might call negative visualization, imagining difficulties and losses before they happen. This might sound depressing, but it's actually liberating. You spend 15 minutes imagining the loss of something you depend on. Your relationship ends. Your job disappears. Your house burns down. Your health fails. You visualize this fully, emotionally. You imagine the pain you would feel. Then something strange happens. When you emerge from this visualization, you're grateful. That person you imagined losing, you suddenly see them more clearly, appreciate them more deeply. That job, you realize how much it provides for you. Your home, you see the gift it is. And most importantly, you realize that if these things were lost, you would survive. You would be sad perhaps, but not destroyed. You're more resilient than you thought. This practice prevents you from taking things for granted. It prevents the kind of desperate grasping that comes from fear of loss. It teaches you to hold what you have lightly but appreciate it deeply. And if loss does come, as it inevitably does, you've already begun processing it. Psychologically, you're less shattered because you've rehearsed it. But it also shows you something crucial. Your peace has always been yours to keep. Even if you lose what you have, you can maintain your inner calm. You can meet loss with dignity and wisdom rather than panic and denial. Pause and examine. In any moment where you feel disturbed, you have a superpower. The ability to pause. You receive an email that makes you angry. You have two choices: react immediately from emotion or pause and examine. When you pause, you create space. In that space, you can ask, is this email actually an attack on me, or am I interpreting it that way? What can I actually control right now? Usually whether I respond, not whether the email was sent. If I respond from my current emotional state, will that serve my values and my peace? What response, if any, would be wise and aligned with my character? Most of the times we protect our peace is when we pause before reacting. A moment of non-response is a victory. Viktor Frankl, who survived the Nazi concentration camps, wrote about this. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. This space is where your peace lives. This space is available to you in every moment. The email doesn't steal your peace in the instant. You read it, your reaction to it does. But there's space between the email and your reaction. And in that space, you can choose. When you're upset, your mind contracts. You see only the problem. You spin with catastrophic thoughts. You imagine terrible futures. Your perspective narrows. One of the most effective peace-protecting practices is to deliberately expand your focus. You're anxious about a difficult conversation you need to have. You're ruminating about it for hours. Your peace is being stolen. So you deliberately expand your focus. You look out the window and notice the trees. You notice the sky. You notice that people around you are living their lives, most of them entirely unaware of your anxiety. You remember that in 100 years, everyone currently alive will be dead. You remember that this particular conversation, which feels earth-shattering right now, is one small moment in a very long life. This isn't minimizing what matters. It's achieving perspective. The conversation still matters. You'll still prepare for it and handle it responsibly, but you've removed it from the center of your existence, where it was strangling your peace. Marcus Aurelius regularly did this. He would remind himself that he was on a small planet in a vast universe. He was one small human in a vast humanity. His problems, which seemed enormous in the moment, were infinitesimally small in the context of existence. This should have been depressing. Instead, it was liberating. It gave him permission to stop taking himself so seriously. It allowed him to meet his difficulties with calm instead of desperation. You can practice this. When you're overwhelmed, zoom out. Literally or imaginatively. Remember your place in the larger world. Remember that this moment is not your entire existence. Remember that most of what you're worried about has not actually happened yet. Remember that you've survived every difficult thing that's happened to you so far. The Amor Fati principle. Amor Fati means love of fate. It's the practice of not just accepting what happens, but actually loving it, seeing it as exactly what you needed. This sounds insane. You want me to love that I lost my job, that I failed, that I was rejected, that I got sick? Not exactly, but consider this. You can't change what happened. It's already part of your story. Now you get to choose what it means. You can see it as evidence that you're cursed, that you're inadequate, that the world is against you. Or you can ask, what gift is this presenting? What can I learn? How can I grow from this? When you lose a job you needed to lose, you later recognize it. When you're rejected by someone who wasn't right for you, you eventually understand it was a mercy. When you face a challenge that forces you to develop strength you didn't know you had, you later become grateful for the challenge. The practice isn't fake positivity, it's sophistication about causality. You acknowledge, I wanted things to go differently, but they didn't. Now, given that this is my reality, how will I integrate it? How will I let it deepen me rather than diminish me? This practice removes the internal conflict that steals peace. You're not at war with reality anymore. You're not spending energy wishing things had been different. You're fully present to what is, and you're asking, what am I going to do with this? Now let's talk about the obstacles to peace, what tries to steal it. Now that we understand what protects your peace, it's valuable to understand the primary obstacles. These are the patterns that undermine peace most effectively, and recognizing them is half the battle. Other people's judgments. This is perhaps the biggest thief. You cannot control what people think of you. Some will admire you. Some will criticize you. Some will be indifferent. If you tie your peace to their opinions, you've given away your peace to millions of strangers. Marcus Aurelius was the most powerful man in the world and still had to remind himself that some people thought him a fool. We cannot be at peace while seeking universal approval. We must choose whose judgment we respect and release everyone else's. Comparison. You're doing fine until you look at what someone else has, what someone else achieved, what someone else looks like. Then suddenly your peace evaporates. Comparison steals peace because someone will always have more. There will always be someone more beautiful, more successful, more talented. The only way forward is to commit to competing with your past self, not with others. Am I better today than I was yesterday? Am I living according to my values? These are the only meaningful measures. Attachment to outcomes. You've prepared well. You've done your work. But now you're obsessing about the result. Will it go my way? What if it doesn't? Your peace leaks away in these what-ifs. The Stoic practice is to do the work, then release the outcome. Whether you get it or not, you've done what you can. Rumination about the past. You made a mistake. You said something you regret. Someone hurt you years ago. And your mind returns to it again and again, relitigating it, wishing it had been different. But you cannot change the past. You can only learn from it and move forward. Rumination is the opposite of learning. It's repetition without progress. You protect your peace by learning the lesson, and then consciously moving your attention to the present. Resistance to what is. You're stuck in traffic and you're angry about traffic. You're sick and you're angry about sickness. You're poor and you're desperate about poverty. The resistance, the anger, the desperation adds an extra layer of suffering on top of the actual difficulty. This is what the Stoics meant by distinguishing between pain and suffering. Pain is physical. Suffering is emotional and is created by our resistance to what is. You protect your peace by accepting difficult reality while still working to change it where you can. The ultimate freedom. All of this, the dichotomy of control, the three disciplines, the practices comes down to one realization. You are freer than you think you are. You may not be free from difficulty. You may not be free from other people's behavior toward you. You may not be free from illness, loss, rejection, or failure. These things happen in a world that operates largely outside your control, but you are completely free in how you meet these things. You are free in what meaning you make of them. You are free in what values you maintain while facing them. You are free to preserve your dignity, your integrity, and your peace regardless of what happens to you. This is the revolutionary promise of Stoicism. It's not, life will be easy. It's, no matter how hard life becomes, your peace, your capacity to meet life wisely and with character, is something no one can take from you. It's entirely your responsibility and entirely within your power. When you truly understand this, something shifts. You stop negotiating with the world. If you treat me well, I'll be peaceful. If you give me what I want, I'll be happy. You stop that fruitless negotiation because you realize the world isn't bargaining with you. The world is simply being itself, and you stop requiring the world to be different in order for you to be okay. This doesn't make you passive, it makes you more effective. It's like the martial arts principle. Don't resist the force, redirect it. When you stop fighting what is, you free up enormous energy to act wisely within reality. You see more clearly. You respond more intelligently. You maintain better relationships because you're not desperate for people to be different. You do better work because you're focused on the task, not the outcome, and you are at peace. Now let's talk about the practical daily practice. Everything we've discussed might feel abstract, so let's make it concrete. Here's a practice you can implement immediately. Each morning, take 5 minutes. Ask yourself, what is in my control today? My effort, my attention, my honesty, my kindness, my focus, my interpretation of events, how I treat people, what I choose to think about. Write down your answer. Commit to these things. Then ask yourself, what is not in my control? The weather, other people's opinions, outcomes of my efforts, how people treat me, my health, events in the world, whether others appreciate my work. Write this down too. You're explicitly releasing these things. Then ask, what is my focus for today? Not the outcome I want, but the action I will take. What work will I do? What person will I be kind to? What skill will I develop? What value will I uphold? Write this down. This is your purpose for the day. Throughout the day, when you feel your peace slipping away, pause. Ask yourself, am I focusing on something in my control or something I cannot control? If it's something you cannot control, consciously redirect your attention. If it's something you can control, take action. In the evening, reflect. Did I act according to my values today? Where did I maintain my peace and where did I lose it? What did I learn? What will I focus on tomorrow? You're not trying to be perfect. You're not trying to have no negative emotions. You're simply noticing where your peace is being stolen and gradually reclaiming it through practice. There is a peace that goes beyond anything life can offer or take away. The Stoics called it different things, but they all pointed to the same reality. When you've truly mastered the dichotomy of control, when you've genuinely committed to living according to your values rather than chasing outcomes, something profound shifts. You realize that you don't actually need circumstances to be different in order to be at peace. You realize that peace was always available to you. It was just buried under layers of demands that the world should be different, demands that people should treat you a certain way, demands that outcomes should go your way. When you release all those demands, peace is what remains. This is not complacency. It's not resignation. It's freedom from the exhausting pretense that you can control what you cannot control. It's the peace of a warrior who has done everything in her power and accepts the outcome with equanimity. It's the peace of someone who has looked failure in the face and discovered that failure doesn't determine his worth. It's the peace of a human being who understands that she is small in a vast universe and finds that fact liberating rather than devastating. Protect this peace at all costs. Protect it from the thieves, the demands, the comparisons, the desperate grasping, the victim mentality, the resentment. Protect it by practicing daily. Protect it by remembering again and again that the only thing that truly matters is what is within your power. Protect it by choosing to meet difficulty with wisdom. Protect it by committing to your values even when no one's watching and no one will ever know. This peace is the inheritance of everyone who practices these principles. It's not reserved for the philosophers or the enlightened. It's available to anyone willing to take responsibility for their own mind, their own values, and their own peace. And in a world increasingly designed to steal your attention and your peace, protecting it at all costs might be the most important work you ever do. Return to that image from the beginning. The pond, the still water, the stones falling. You're older now. You understand something you didn't before. The stones will keep falling. That's not something you can prevent. But you're standing on the shore now, not in the water. You watch the disturbances. You see them ripple out. And you know that beneath the surface, beneath every ripple, something essential remains unchanged. That essential thing is you, not your circumstances, not your achievements, not your body or your status or your possessions. The pure capacity to choose to decide to maintain your character and your values, that remains. It's always remained. It's the only thing that ever truly could. Protect it. It is not things that disturb people, but their judgments about things. Epictetus. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Marcus Aurelius. Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants and contentment in one's circumstances. Seneca. He is a wise man who does not give the right answer to an evil question. Socrates. Subscribe to this channel, not because you are told to, but because you know somewhere in your chest that this conversation is one you need to keep having. Love is not simple. Marriage is not simple. But understanding, real, honest, courageous understanding makes both of them possible. This channel is committed to that understanding every single week. Join this community. Subscribe right now and share this with someone who needs to hear that what they are feeling is real, that they are not alone, and that it is never too late to start loving better.